Why are you unhappy? You know, I bet you've asked yourself that at least once today, or maybe, just maybe, several times over the past week. And don't lie to me, you've probably even asked Google, like, why am I so miserable? But here's the thing, you're not alone in this. A lot of us are just one bad coffee away from an existential crisis, right? Maybe you've been feeling like life is just meh. Like you're checking off boxes, but you're not really living. Or maybe you've got everything everyone says you should want. Career, relationships, stuff. And yet something still feels missing. Well, let me tell you a little secret. You're not broken. In fact, the reason you're unhappy might just be because of a few habits that are working against you. And guess what? You can fix them. All right, let me paint a picture. It's 8 a.m. You've hit snooze on your alarm 3 times. Finally, you roll out of bed like a tired zombie and hit the ground running. Work, kids, errands, the usual grind. Sound familiar? Now, you're not in a great mood, but you tell yourself, I'll be fine. You push through the day, but as the hours go by, the weight on your shoulders just feels heavier. By the time you get home, you're completely drained and maybe even a little snappy. What happened? That, my friend, is the cycle of unhappiness at work. It's like a bad sequel to a movie you didn't ask for. Unhappiness isn't just an occasional bad mood. It's a snowball effect. One thing piles on top of another, and before you know it, you're deep in a pit of frustration, anger, or stress. But there's hope. You can break that cycle. And it leads us to think, why am I stuck here? But here's the thing. You don't have to stay stuck. And if you're realizing that maybe, just maybe, some of your habits are digging you deeper into that unhappiness pit, you're not alone. Many of us unknowingly participate in habits that keep us feeling frustrated or disconnected from true joy. Before we dive deeper into the real culprits, let me ask you, have you hit that subscribe button yet? If you haven't, hit it now, because what you're about to discover could be life-changing. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Let's be real for a second. How many times have you said, I'm fine, when you're really not? Maybe you've got that nagging feeling that something's off, but you shove it down because, well, life. You tell yourself, it's just a phase. I'll get over it. But that little voice inside keeps whispering, something's not right. And the truth is, it's easy to deny unhappiness. Society expects us to be happy all the time, so we bottle it up. Like we're all just supposed to walk around with a smile on our face, like some over-caffeinated cartoon character, right? Everything's fine, I swear. But deep down, we know it's not. The hardest part is realizing that we've probably been doing this for so long that it feels normal to be a little, well, miserable. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, the habits that are keeping you stuck in unhappiness. And no, I'm not talking about your tendency to eat a whole pizza while binge-watching Netflix. Okay, maybe a little. I'm talking about the things you do every day that are slowly draining your joy without you even realizing it. Now, don't get defensive. I know you've probably done a few of these. Heck, I've done most of them, and I'm still here. So don't worry, you're not alone. Let's take a look at some habits that might be sabotaging your happiness. Name-dropping, bragging, exaggerating your accomplishments. If you find yourself constantly talking about how awesome you are, maybe, just maybe, it's a sign of insecurity. Just saying. Holding grudges or obsessively hating. This one's a biggie. You might think you're punishing the other person, but really it's you who's getting eaten up from the inside out. Blaming others and playing the victim. Yep. It feels good to point fingers. But when you're constantly framing yourself as the victim, guess what? You're giving away your power. And the only person who's losing is you. Lying, cheating, or being shady. You might think you're getting away with it, but deep down, you know it's eating at you, like a slow leak in a tire. It's not good for you or your relationships. Spending hours on your phone or watching news that makes you angry? Let's be honest, 90% of the news these days is designed to make you anxious. You can literally feel your blood pressure rising. And for what? You can't change it from your couch. I mean, come on, how many of us have mindlessly scrolled through Instagram and suddenly felt worse about ourselves? No one's life is as perfect as it looks online. And if you're constantly chasing status, likes, or followers, you're probably just feeding your insecurity. Trust me, no good comes from comparing your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. But here's the good news. You're not stuck. You can change this. Breaking the cycle of unhappiness starts with one simple truth. You have the power to change your habits. It might not be easy and it might not happen overnight, but little changes add up. It's like trying to quit your caffeine addiction one less cup a day, and eventually you realize you're not dependent on it anymore. So what can you do about it? Here are a few habits you can start implementing today to boost your happiness. And I promise, you won't need a fancy degree in psychology to do them. Get moving! Take a walk, do yoga, whatever floats your boat. I don't care if you start with just 10 minutes of walking, it counts. Trust me, your body will thank you. Limit social media time. Put down the phone, I'm serious. Try to go for 30 minutes without checking your feed. You'll feel lighter already. Practice gratitude. Here's a fun one. Every morning, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be life-changing. I'm thankful for coffee works. Try it for a week and see how your mindset shifts. Get outside. Even if you're just standing in your backyard for 10 minutes, get some fresh air. You'd be surprised at how much that can do for your mental health. Here's a little secret that might sting. Your happiness is in your hands, not in your job, not in your relationships, and definitely not in the next big thing you're waiting for. It's up to you to stop playing the victim. Don't get me wrong, life is tough sometimes, but when you realize that your happiness doesn't depend on everything else lining up perfectly, it's empowering. Take Abraham Lincoln. Dude was basically living in a storm of personal grief, yet he still managed to lead a country through one of its darkest times. Did he let his circumstances dictate his happiness? Heck no. Why? Because he took responsibility for his own well-being, even when things sucked. Okay, friend, here's the deal. Your habits are like the seeds you plant in your life. If you want happiness, you have to sow the seeds of positive change. And if you want to break free from unhappiness, you've got to recognize the habits that are holding you back. You've got this. And I'm here to remind you that you deserve a life that feels good, not just one that looks good on the outside. So, here's what I want you to do right now. Pick one habit from this video that you're going to change. Just one. And if you're ready to keep this momentum going, hit that subscribe button because we're in this together. Let's create the life you really want to live. You've got the power.